evening, ma'am. Is everything all right?
It's freezing out here. We need help.
This happened to me and my wife Jenna 2 years ago. Even now, we rarely sleep through the night, and I'm not sure we'll ever feel completely safe in our own home again. It was our first New Year's Eve as parents. Our son Liam was 3 months old. If you've had a newborn, you know the party life dies the moment you bring them home. We used to hit bars or big house parties every year. That year, our wild plan was simply to stay awake until midnight. Liam had been colicky for weeks, screaming nonstop every evening from about 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock p.m. But that night somehow, he went down easy around 8:30. We laid him in his crib in the nursery, which is upstairs at the back of the house. We had one of those expensive video baby monitors that sync to your phone, but also comes with its own handheld screen. We set that little screen on the coffee table in the living room beside a bowl of chips and dip. The living room was warm and dim, TV turned low, some New Year's Eve special droning on as we both fought to stay awake. Every 10 minutes or so, I glanced at the monitor. Night vision was on, so everything was grainy black and white, but I could clearly see Liam swaddled, chest rising and falling. He looked more peaceful than he had in weeks. Around 11:50 p.m., the TV show ramped up. Hosts yelling, music blaring, the whole fake excitement package. I nudged the volume up a notch, wanting to feel some of that energy. Jenna went to the kitchen to pour a sparkling cider since she was breastfeeding and avoiding alcohol. 10 minutes to midnight, someone on TV shouted. Outside, the neighborhood started waking up. We live in a suburb where people take fireworks personally. A few cracks and pops went off down the street. I checked the monitor. Liam didn't move. He's out cold, I told Jenna when she came back in with the glasses. I hope the big fireworks don't wake him up. If he wakes up, you're going in, she joked, settling beside me. At 11:59, the countdown began. 10:98. We counted along and clinked our glasses at 0. The neighborhood exploded. It sounded like a war zone. Someone a couple houses down had clearly splurged on the industrial-grade stuff. The blasts shook our windows. It was insanely loud. I whipped my head to the monitor, bracing for Liam's scream. Nothing. He didn't even twitch. Wow, Jenna said, peering over my shoulder. He must be exhausted. He didn't move at all. Yeah, I said slowly. Lucky. Another thunderous boom rattled the house. The neighbor's dog went berserk, barking nonstop. On the screen, Liam remained perfectly still. My relief curdled into something else. Liam is a light sleeper. A creaky floorboard sets him off. There was no way he was sleeping through blasts that were shaking the pictures on our walls. I picked up the monitor and brought it closer. The image was sharp. Liam in the crib, swaddled, chest rising. Everything looked normal. Then my eyes drifted to the small digital clock in the upper right corner of the screen, the monitor's own time stamp. 11:42 p.m. I looked at the cable box under the TV. 12:04 a.m. My blood ran cold. Jenna, I said, my voice suddenly thin. The monitor, it's frozen, she frowned. What? The time, it says 11:42. This isn't live. We haven't been watching him. We've been watching a frozen image. I didn't wait for an answer. I dropped the monitor on the couch and sprinted for the stairs. I heard Jenna gasp and follow. I took the steps 2 at a time. The upstairs hallway was dark. I reached the nursery and threw the door open, expecting crying or at least the soft sound of breathing. A cold draft hit me. I flipped on the light. The curtains were billowing hard into the room. The window, which we always kept locked, was wide open. The screen had been cut and pushed out. I could see it lying on the lawn below. I ran to the crib. Empty. The swaddle blanket was there, twisted and tossed aside. But Liam was gone. He's gone, I screamed. I don't think I've ever heard that kind of sound come out of my own throat. Jenna stumbled in behind me, saw the empty crib and collapsed, screaming his name over and over. I rushed to the window and looked out. The street was dim, lit only by the constant strobe of distant fireworks. The cheerful booms felt like mockery. While we sat downstairs toasting the new year, watching a frozen picture of our sleeping baby, someone had climbed up, sliced our screen, slipped in, and carried him out into the winter night. Hands shaking, I fumbled my phone out of my pocket and dialed 911. I was yelling so fast the operator had to tell me to slow down so she could understand our address. The next hour blurred into blue lights, radio chatter, and officers moving grimly through the house and yard. They threw up a perimeter quickly. The officer in charge told us whoever did this had likely used the early fireworks as cover for the sound of the window sliding open. They'd counted on the holiday chaos and the noise. In the backyard, they found footprints in the snow leading from beneath the nursery window across the yard to the side gate, which was hanging open. Unlatched, I thought I was going to be sick. I paced the living room clutching Jenna while my brain replayed 11:50, 11:55, me glancing at that frozen image and thinking he was safe. Watching a ghost while my real son was being carried away. Almost 2 hours later, the radio on the lead officer's shoulder crackled. Suspect detained. We have the infant. He appears unharmed. Jenna and I both broke down sobbing. They'd found her 4 blocks away. She was a woman in her late 40s, walking calmly down the sidewalk in the freezing dark, humming to herself, holding Liam wrapped in a heavy coat. A patrol car had stopped because, in their words, it just looked wrong for someone to be strolling with a baby at 2 a.m. on New Year's in sub-zero wind chill. When they asked, she said he was her grandson, but she couldn't give his name or his birth date or even the right month. It unraveled from there. She lived in the neighborhood. We learned later she'd lost a child years earlier and had a full psychological break. Over time, she'd started watching us, watching our routines, watching the nursery window. She chose New Year's deliberately, knowing fireworks would hide the sound of breaking a screen and opening a window. We got Liam back that night. He was cold and hungry, but otherwise okay. We didn't sleep for days. We sold the house 3 months later. We couldn't stay somewhere we knew we'd been watched like that. The video monitor went straight into the trash. Now we keep the nursery door open, and one of us is always awake. Technology is great until it isn't. It can fail quietly. And sometimes the worst things happen exactly when you think you're safest, right under your nose. Before the next story, if you're new here, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss our upcoming scary stories. I've never really liked parties. I'm the guy leaning against the wall, checking my watch every 10 minutes. But it was New Year's Eve 2019, and my roommates Sam and Jard had practically dragged me to this house party in a Chicago suburb. The place was packed, bass shaking the windows, air thick with sweat, perfume, and cheap booze. I didn't know most of the people there, friends of friends of friends. I parked myself by the kitchen island, feeling like a prop, just waiting for midnight so I could disappear without looking rude. Around 11:45 p.m., the music cut off mid-song. The silence hit like a slap. Conversations died away as heavy pounding rattled the front door. "Police, open up!" a deep voice shouted from outside. My stomach dropped. I hadn't done anything, but that primal fear of cops kicked in anyway. Everyone froze. Sam, who was hosting, went pale as he walked to the door and opened it. A police officer stepped inside. He looked legit, dark uniform, badge glinting, heavy-duty belt, radio, everything. He was big, tall, and broad-shouldered, and I didn't recognize him as any local cop. He swept the room with his flashlight, beam slicing through the dim-colored lights. It stopped on me. "Is there a David Miller here?" he barked. My heart started punching my ribcage. I felt every face in the room swivel toward me. I'm David," I said. He pushed through the crowd. People parted around him like water, staring at me with that mix of curiosity and second-hand dread. "Step forward," he ordered. "What? Why? What did I do?" I stammered. "We have a warrant for your arrest in connection with a hit and run on December 20th. Turn around." "Hit and run," I blurted. "I haven't hit anyone. I drive a Corolla, for God's sake. There's been a mistake." "Tell it to the judge. Turn around, now." His hand clamped down on my shoulder and spun me. The cuffs came out fast. The metallic ratcheting around my wrists was deafening. He put them on painfully tight. "You have the right to remain silent," he recited as he shoved me toward the door. I looked back at Sam and Jard. Their mouths hung open. They looked terrified and utterly useless. I begged them with my eyes to say something, do something. They didn't. He marched me outside into the freezing Chicago winter. The wind cut straight through my thin shirt. "Officer, please," I babbled as we headed down the driveway. "Check my license, call my work. I was on shift on the 20th. Quiet," he snapped. We reached the street. I expected a marked squad car, lights flashing. Nothing. The road was silent and empty. "Where's your car?" I asked, confused. Before he answered, a black SUV with deeply tinted windows rolled slowly down the street. It had no markings, but red and blue lights flickered faintly behind the front grille. The officer's body went rigid. He stopped walking. The SUV pulled up to the curb. The driver's window slid down. I could make out a dark uniform, but not his face. "I've got him," the driver said. His voice was rough. "Prison or transport? Put him in the back." The officer holding me hesitated. For a heartbeat, his expression flickered, confusion, maybe even fear. He looked at the SUV, back at the house, then at me. "Officer," I said weakly. "Get in," he cut me off, suddenly hurried. His authority was gone. He sounded nervous. He yanked open the rear door of the SUV and practically shoved me inside. "Wait, seat belt," I started, but he slammed the door. Through the tinted glass, I saw him power walk back toward the house. He didn't look like a cop anymore. He looked like someone desperate to get away. The SUV shot forward. With my hands cuffed behind me, I slid on the slick leather seat. The car reeked of wet dog and antiseptic. "Sir," I called toward the front. "Where are we going? Which precinct?" No answer. He drove fast, blowing through a stop sign without even slowing. "You just ran a stop sign," I yelled, panic sharpening my voice. "Aren't you supposed to?" He turned onto a road leading away from the city, toward the old industrial district. "The station's downtown," I tried again, voice cracking. He finally glanced up at the rearview mirror. The dashboard light caught his eyes. He wasn't wearing a police cap, just a grimy baseball hat, and he was smiling. "We're not going to the station, David," he said quietly. My whole body went cold. "What?" "I saw your friend bring you out," he said. "Nice of him to gift wrap you for me, handcuffed and everything. Saves me so much work, my friend." "That was a cop," I hissed. He laughed, a dry, hacking sound. "That wasn't a cop, kid. That was a costume. I've been watching that house for 2 hours, waiting for someone to step out alone. Got lucky. You came out already chained up." It hit me like a punch. The officer inside, the lack of a marked car, Sam and Jard's faces. It had been a prank, some idiot idea involving an actor in a police costume to scare me. Then this SUV showed up with hidden lights. The actor thought it was real law enforcement. He panicked. To save his own skin, he dumped me into the first official vehicle he saw. I wasn't in a squad car. I was trapped in a stranger's SUV, handcuffed, heading deeper into the dark. "Let me out," I screamed, kicking at the door. "It was a joke, okay? It was just a joke." "Not to me," the man said. I heard the click of the door locks. He reached down under his seat and pulled up something metallic, resting it beside him. "Sit back. Enjoy the ride. The new year's just getting started." We were miles from the party now. The last streetlights had vanished. The only light came from the headlights sweeping over endless rows of dead corn and crumbling warehouses. I started hyperventilating. I yanked at the cuffs until my wrists burned and bled. They were real police-grade handcuffs. The actor hadn't been playing with props. The SUV slowed and turned onto a gravel road that led into a patch of woods by the river. "Please," I sobbed. "I have money. Take my wallet, just let me go." "I don't want your money," he said, putting the car in park and killing the engine. Darkness rushed in. "I just want to play." His door opened. No interior light came on, he disabled it. I heard his boots crunch around the front of the car to my side. I curled my knees up, muscles coiled. As soon as the door flew open and he reached in, I kicked with everything I had. My heels slammed into his chest. He grunted and staggered back, cursing. I pitched myself out of the SUV, hitting the frozen ground face, first because I couldn't catch myself. Pain exploded across my nose and mouth, but adrenaline swallowed it. "You little brat," he roared, scrambling up. I got to my feet and ran. I crashed into the trees, stumbling without my arms for balance. Branches raked my face, roots caught my feet, but I didn't stop. "I've got a flashlight," he shouted somewhere behind me. "You can't hide." A bright beam cut through the trunks, sweeping back and forth. I dove behind a thick oak and pressed myself flat against the rough bark. My breath tore in and out, way too loud in the stillness. His footsteps crunched closer. "Slow, steady. Come on out, David," he called softly. "You're still wearing the bracelets. You can't go far." He was right. I couldn't climb, couldn't really fight. I was basically hogtied. I scanned the ground frantically. Maybe 10 feet away, I spotted a rusted drainage pipe sticking out of the earth, half buried. It looked too small for a grown man, but I didn't have options. I waited until his flashlight beam swung away, then bolted for it. I shoved my feet in first and wriggled backward. The inside was cramped, slick with freezing muck. The smell of rot choked me. I squirmed until my shoulders wedged against the curve of the pipe. I could go no farther. I lay there in the pitch black, shaking uncontrollably as cold seeped into my bones. Footsteps stopped right outside. The beam stabbed into the pipe. I squeezed my eyes shut. The light didn't quite reach my face, but it wasn't far. "I know you're close," he whispered. He stayed there for what felt like forever, just listening. I didn't dare breathe. Tears leaked down my cheeks into the cold mud. Finally, he kicked the side of the pipe. The clang reverberated so hard my teeth hurt. I didn't move. After a moment, I heard him walk away, boots crunching back through the brush, the flashlight glow fading. I stayed in that pipe until the sky started to lighten. When I finally crawled out, I could barely feel my fingers or my feet. Covered in filth, soaked, half frozen, I walked until I found a gas station about an hour later. The clerk stared like I was a ghost. He let me use the store phone. The police arrived, cut the cuffs off, wrapped me in a blanket, and took my statement. At the station, Sam and Jard were waiting in the lobby, red-eyed and shaking. They'd been trying to call me all night. They explained through tears that the first officer was an actor, friend of a friend. The joke was to fake arrest me, drive me around the block for 5 minutes, then bring me back inside for a laugh. When the black SUV with hidden lights pulled up, the actor thought he was being busted by real undercover cops for impersonating an officer. He panicked. Handing me off was his way of saving himself. The SUV turned up a week later, abandoned, reported stolen. The interior was lined with plastic sheeting. They never found the driver. I don't talk to Sam or Jard anymore. I moved to another state. Back in 2018, I was a junior in college living in a dingy garden-level apartment in Ohio. One of those cheap complexes where the walls are paper-thin and the halls permanently smell like damp carpet. Because I'd stacked my schedule with winter courses and had a part-time retail job I couldn't afford to lose, I decided not to fly home to California for the holidays. By New Year's Eve, I was completely alone. My 2 roommates had gone back to their families, leaving the place dead silent. Around 7:00 p.m., I was heating up a frozen pizza, trying not to think about all the parties popping off around campus. I wasn't really sad, just bored. Then someone knocked heavily on my door. I wasn't expecting anybody. I checked the peephole. It was my across-the-hall neighbor, Arthur. Arthur was late 50s, balding, always in thick wool sweaters. We'd only ever traded small talk at the mailboxes or nods in the parking lot. He always seemed a bit awkward, very quiet, and extremely alone. I opened the door. "Hey, Arthur, what's up?" He shifted his weight, looking nervous. "Hello, Mark. IAH made a roast for tonight, New Year's tradition. But I realized I cooked far too much for one person. I saw your lights on and thought perhaps you were alone as well. Would you like to join me? It's just done." The smell drifting from his open door was incredible: rosemary, garlic, rich meat. Way better than my sad frozen pizza. I hesitated for a second, then guilt won out. He was trying, and I had zero plans. "Sure," I said. "Let me grab my phone." I locked my door and followed him across the hall. The layout of his unit was identical to mine, but the atmosphere was completely different. Where my place was cluttered with textbooks and game controllers, his was eerily neat and sparse. No decorations, almost no furniture. A small table with 2 chairs, a brown leather couch, no TV. The only light came from a single lamp in the kitchen overhead. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the table. 2 plates were already set, silverware perfectly aligned, bottle of soda in the center. As I sat, I heard a distinct metallic click behind me. I turned. Arthur was sliding the deadbolt shut. He noticed me looking and smiled. "Just keeping the draft out," he said. He joined me and started carving. The roast tasted as good as it smelled, but the conversation was off from the start. He didn't ask anything normal like what I studied or where I worked. Instead, he said, "So your roommates are gone for the whole week, correct?" "Yeah," I said slowly. "They'll be back on the 4th. "And your parents," he added. "They know you're here alone." "We texted earlier," I lied. I actually hadn't spoken to them yet. "Why?" "Oh, just chatting," Arthur said, staring without blinking. "It's rare these days to see a young man so very isolated." He poured me a glass of soda. I didn't touch it. I moved my food around the plate, appetite fading. The air felt heavier by the minute. The only sounds were distant fireworks and the occasional car passing outside. About 20 minutes in, his fork clattered loudly against his plate. He sat up straighter. "I have a surprise for dessert," he said, voice dropping slightly. "I made it especially for you." "I should probably head back soon, actually," I said, pushing my chair back. "I need to call my mom." "Sit down," he said. It wasn't polite anymore, it was a command. "I really have to go," I said, trying to keep my tone casual. "I said sit down," he snapped. Before I could respond, a cell phone started ringing. Not mine, and not from Arthur's pocket. The sound came from the back bedroom. Arthur's eyes went wide and real panic flashed across his face. He looked toward the bedroom door. He stood abruptly. "Stay right here, do not move." He hurried down the short hallway and shut the bedroom door behind him. I didn't hesitate. The second that door clicked, I bolted for the front door. I grabbed the deadbolt and twisted. It didn't budge. It was a double-cylinder deadbolt, the kind that needs a key to unlock from the inside. My apartment didn't have that kind of lock. He must have installed it himself. A wave of cold washed through me. I scanned for a key. A little bowl sitting on a side table near the door was empty. From the bedroom, Arthur's voice bled through the wall. He wasn't talking calmly on the phone. He was yelling, furious. "You ruined it," he shouted. "You were supposed to be quiet." My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. I realized the front door wasn't an option. I ran into the kitchen. Being on the garden level meant the windows faced ground level outside. If I could get one open, I could climb out. I tried to shove the kitchen window up. It didn't move. I looked closer and saw screws sunk into the frame. He'd sealed the windows shut. The bedroom doorknob rattled. Panic surged. I grabbed the heavy soda bottle from the table and crouched behind the kitchen island, clutching it like a bat. Arthur walked back into the main room. "Mark," he called, sugary sweet again. "Where did you go?" "Dessert is ready." I peered around the corner. He was holding a roll of silver duct tape in one hand and a box cutter in the other. He started checking each corner of the living room, moving closer to the bathroom. He was between me and the door, his back partially turned. I needed a distraction. On the counter next to me sat the roast on its thick ceramic platter. I took a breath, grabbed the platter, and whipped it as hard as I could toward the bathroom door. It smashed against the wall in an explosion of ceramic and meat. "What are you doing?" Arthur yelled, spinning toward the crash. I didn't answer. I charged from the kitchen straight at him. I hit him shoulder first in the chest. He toppled backward, tripping and slamming onto the floor. The box cutter skittered across the linoleum. I didn't try to fight him further. I dove for the front door, remembering the key. He groaned, starting to sit up. I saw something metallic clipped to his belt loop. Keys. I dropped down, grabbing for them. His hand clamped around my ankle with surprising strength, yanking hard. He kicked at me, his shoe connecting with my ribs, knocking the breath out of me. I stomped down on his wrist with my heel, until he screamed and let go. I ripped the keys off his belt, scrambled to my feet, and jammed the first one into the deadbolt. "You can't leave," Arthur screamed. Blood trickled from his nose where he'd hit the floor. He was pushing himself up, staggering toward me. The lock turned. I yanked the door open and practically fell into the hallway. I didn't stop to grab anything from my own apartment. I sprinted up the stairs, out of the building, and into the icy night. I ran until I reached a 24-hour gas station a few blocks away. Shaking, I borrowed the clerk's phone and called the police. When officers arrived at the complex, Arthur's door was hanging open. Arthur himself was gone. What they found inside, though, was enough to make me drop out after winter term and move back home. In his bedroom, there was no other person. The voice I'd heard him yelling at had come from a recording of his own voice, still playing on a loop. He'd been rehearsing. The closet held something worse, a small hidden opening into the ventilation system. Those vents ran directly into my apartment. They found hundreds of photos of me asleep, photos of me watching TV, photos clearly taken from inside my bedroom, from angles that only made sense if he'd been in there while I was gone. He must have copied a spare key from the landlord and had been coming into my place for months. On the kitchen counter, detectives found a syringe and a bottle of high-grade sedative, the dessert meant specifically for me. They never found Arthur. To this day, every New Year's Eve, I triple-check every lock, and I never, ever open my door to a knock after dark.